What was it like kind of getting back into that headspace and back into the character after a year away from it?
I thought it would just be easy to jump back in, but it wasn't as simple as I had anticipated. And when we first started filming, actually, we did it kind of in chronological order, and so we were on the Amity set. I remember the first scene, Theo and I walked out and we were both in like farmer clothes, and we looked at each other and we did the scene, and then we were like, wait, that wasn't Triss or Four at all. That was two completely different characters that we don't know.
Shay and I both said that the first day on set we had a kind of moment where we were like, oh, shit, who are these people? We kind of need to remind yourself, because you do play other characters in between.
It was interesting to try and make our minds adapt to that new environment and yet keep the emotional paradigms that we had from Divergent.
It's good. We're very lucky to be able to revisit a character that you've played, very recently as well, because you get to explore things that you didn't have time to before. And especially with this movie, because there's inevitably, first movie, you spend a lot of time setting up the world and setting up the people, and now that's done, you have the license to kind of engage them on a bit of a deeper level and try and push things a little bit further.
And he's got quite a lot on his plate in this film, because he's trying to always protect Triss from everything, but then also he's got kind of, with his mum coming back in, it's like an inner torment for him. So how was that for you, trying to guide your way through that kind of emotionally?
It's interesting because he's in quite a different place from the first movie. In the first movie, he is really in control. He's kind of, Triss meets him and he chooses when to kind of reveal anything to her, and then finally we kind of know that he's a good person, whereas we didn't know that initially. Whereas now he's kind of struggling to, as you say, protect her, struggling to bring people together in this time of civil war. So it's something that we talked about a lot with the director and talked about with Shay, how these people change and evolve emotionally through the course of the movie. Because, as fun as a big action film is, if you don't have the backbone of some kind of good character analysis, then it's kind of empty.
She's going through quite a lot in this one. Obviously, she's kind of plagued by this guilt the entire way through it for what happened with Will, and also just with her parents and stuff. So how is that for you, kind of, because that's quite an emotional space to be in. So was that kind of like a tougher kind of place to be in, as opposed to in the first one where she's more kind of just in that kind of kick-ass frame of mind?
Yeah, it was more interesting for me to play her, I felt like, in this film, simply because she was dealing with the PTSD from her parents, and had a lot of anger. But behind that anger, all of it is just sadness and weakness and brokenness and vulnerability. And so it was fun to explore those different layers and those different depths, and also how she decides to keep all of these secrets from Four. I thought that was really fascinating, because I think that that's something that a lot of us do. When you really care for someone and when you really love someone, sometimes you don't want to burden them with the things that you're going through, which is completely counterintuitive, because they're your pillar and they're the ones that actually can probably help you through that issue.
What do you hope an audience are going to get from Insurgent?
I think they will get a bigger movie on a scale that is genuinely they haven't seen in the first movie. On top of that, it's a great story anchored by really good performances, but it's also a big action spectacle movie which is very broad in its appeal. It's not a genre movie, it's not a YA movie, it's just a plain old movie.
This film is much more exciting, I think, than Divergent. It's just bigger. The sets are bigger. The way it was filmed, actually, there's a lot of aerial shots. The cinematography is larger in scope. So when I saw it, I almost felt like I was part of the film versus watching it as like an objective audience member. But the action is really fun. There's a lot of swinging from things and jumping from things, and it's just tougher overall. I think it's groovier, it's sexier in a way, like more badass.